That's for sure. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Barrett Brooks, Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis. And joining us right now, we turn our sights to the man who's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him and does an amazing job covering the Eagles for The Athletic, Bo Wulf. Bo, what's happening, my man?
I'm working on like 2 hours of sleep. I feel like half a human being, but I'm happy to be here. How are you guys?
You're a
no
gamer,
question, man. No question.
That's what we love about you. It doesn't matter. Yes.
Yeah. I'm still a little pissed off, man. I'm still pissed off, bro.
Yes, vent, man.
It shouldn't have happened. Number one, it shouldn't have happened. I'm one of the believers that we didn't need to lose just to stay focused. I don't think it was even a focus thing. That reason why we lost. I think hungry dogs run faster, and those are hungry dogs on the side of the field. They wanted it more than this Eagles team wanted it. Period. It wasn't anything schematic or anything that they did anything different. They just flat out kicked our ass up front.
Bo, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because Jalen Hurts said that his message to the team yesterday morning was like that hungry dogs run faster. We don't have to manufacture, motivation. We should be just as hungry now as we were at the start of the season. And, he said, we'll see how we bounce back. He said he's confident that they will respond well. I mean, I think I find it hard to get like super angry and worked up about this game because it was sort of like you knew that a weird game like this was coming, right? They weren't going to win the turnover battle every single week like they had through the first 8 games. There were some fluky plays in this game. I mean, if Quez Watkins just runs under that ball instead of falling to the ground, he scores a 75-yard touchdown and gives the Eagles a lead, and I'm not so sure that the defense can't just close that game out. Obviously, the Dallas Goedert play, which we can talk about and we can get to because, he's going to be out for a couple weeks. It sounds like that's a game-changing play. There were some coin flips in this game that I think it's hard to get super angry about from my perspective. However, there is also the glaring flaw of the run defense that is the thing that they need to fix, and they're going to need to figure out a way to fix it fast given the schedule that's coming up.
Well, let's talk about that, Bo, because this has been building, right? It's the third straight week they've given up a $140 or more on the ground. They've been able to overcome it. I think in a lot of ways they've had leads and teams probably abandon the run later in games, etc. But certainly the game plan last night was just to pound it down the Eagles' throat. Is it as simple as adjustments? Do they have the personnel to be able to at least curtail it to an extent in your estimation? I mean, can we lay all this at Jordan Davis, is out? I've heard that ad nauseum. I'm not denying it, but my God, he wasn't playing that much. So where do you stand on the run defense?
Yeah, I'm with you that the Jordan Davis absence is a little bit overstated. I mean, it's important for sure. And you saw it last night. Not only the fact that Marlon Tuipulotu and Marlon Tuipulotu at nose tackle is a significant downgrade from Jordan Davis, right? And then if you put Javon Hargrave there, that means that he doesn't get to rush the passer and get up the field. So, yeah, it's a big absence. But they weren't a good run defense with Jordan Davis. They were like 25th, I think, in run defense before he left. So it's not like they were lighting the world on fire.
Right.
And what does it say about your defense if, like, your rookie first-round pick leaving is going to collapse the entire scheme? Now, Washington gained like 3.5 yards a carry yesterday. So it's not like they were dominating them, but the fact that they were able to do it so consistently with so few negative plays to get them behind schedule when the Eagles knew what they were going to do, I think you lay that at Jonathan Gannon's feet a little bit. You can't blitz Taylor Heineke a little bit more and be a little bit more aggressive. I think they blitzed twice in the entire first half. Now,
wow,
6 times the whole game.
Yep,
right. And so they bowed up at the end of the game, right? Like they forced 3 punts when the game was in the balance. And so you give them credit for that. They made some adjustments, but there was a 5-drive stretch starting in the second quarter when they had 5 scoring drives of like 12 plays, 16 plays, 13 plays, 8 plays, 13 plays. Like, that's not good enough. And I know that everything is all part of the same interconnectivity. But if the offense is on the field for 6 minutes in the first half, it's tough to get a rhythm, right?
Hey, Bo, would you categorize this game under the heading of either it was just one of those dog day afternoons or nights, as we've seen everybody go through in the National Football League, except the Eagles up to this point, or a blueprint has definitely been laid in terms of how to neutralize the Eagles?
I would lean more towards the former, especially division games. Second time playing a team, those games can get a little bit wonky. I also think that the idea that like this is the blueprint to beat them is a little bit like, well, didn't everybody already know that you could run on the Eagles, right? Like they didn't need to see this game to know that could be the formula. And just because you run doesn't mean that you're going to win the turnover battle, right? So I think I chalk it up a little bit more to some bad luck that was probably going to come over the course of a 17-game season.
Yeah. Luck is something that you can go out and you can will to happen for you. And I think that's exactly what Washington did. They willed this team to win just by their nature of how they approached the game. When you
by how late they kneeled down at the end of the game, that's
right. Just little things, man. Like what did Tyson say? Everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the mouth. Something close to that. Well, the Eagles got punched in the mouth, and I really thought that all right, in the second half, it's going to come around and we'll be the dominant team we usually were, and we never did get to that point. But you could I kind of felt that that's what they were thinking, that they were going to go out in the second half, reestablish who they are. Like, don't you guys know who I am? Do you really think you're going to win? Don't you know who I am? And they're still punching them off again. It made them like it, and I really get a sense that that's what they were thinking.
And I think I think the real example of that was the first drive of the second half, right? The Eagles offense gets the ball. We've seen them do this over the course of the season. They like to double dip there. They didn't score at the end of the second quarter, but you go into halftime, you have a chance to adjust. All right, we're coming out. We've got the ball. Let's go, make a statement here. And they go 3 and out. And that was pretty bad. Now, to be fair, they then, later in the third quarter go on a touchdown drive. I thought Jalen Hurts was really good in that drive. And they were able to, you talk about like leaning on the other team. It seemed to me like in the middle of the third quarter through the middle of the fourth quarter, the Eagles offensive line was dominating the Commanders defensive line up front. But then you get a chance at the end of the game to win too, and you go 3 and out again. And I didn't like going 13 personnel there on 2nd and 8. The game is on the line. We really need to take A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith off the field right now.
Right.
For sure. I like that. And then there was a miscommunication, and I think Jalen Hurts got a little bit scrambly on that last third down play. So, like, in my heart, I believed that Jalen Hurts was going to lead a touchdown drive there. And so that was disappointing, I think. But, you're right. I mean, which team deserved to win that game yesterday based on how they played? Certainly Washington.
Yes, absolutely.
Bo, you brought it up, and not to bury the lead here, but the Goddard injury, total insult to injury, by the way, with the play in which it happened. But so now you're looking at Stoll, you're looking at Calcaterra, and Tyree Jackson eligible to come off the IR here. Give me the impact of this thing, because we always talk about, I think, 3 or 4 people before we even get to Dallas Goedert, but this guy is a premier tight end. How big a loss is this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty major loss because I think the gap between Dallas Goedert and, Jack Stoll, or whoever you want to say is the number 2 tight end, might be the most significant on the roster. I think you can make a case for safety maybe. But I also think the Eagles have answers here, especially if it's not, a long-term injury. And the word right now is that they're going to wait on some more tests to decide whether this is worth an injured reserve placement or not. So that means, it's probably more like a 3-week injury they're thinking right now. And to me, this means more Zach Pascal is on the field probably because he has some blocking capability and can give you a little bit in the passing game like Dallas Goedert can. I think you play more 11 personnel. Now, to be fair, there are times when Nick Sirianni's instinct is here to then go to 12 personnel to really block it up and maybe lean on the running game a little bit more, which they may be able to do against some of these opponents. But I think in the short term, they have enough weapons and enough tools in their tool belt to get through this without Dallas Goedert.
Hey, Bo, have you been able to get a better gauge on A.J. Brown's situation? Once he tweaked that ankle, he limped the rest of the game, was not the same player. Now, he said he feels he's going to be fine. surprised. Every player says that. But have you heard anything else in terms of where he is right now?
He was interesting in the post-game locker room, Gunner. Like his like emotional state was like very much, this is fine, no big deal at all. Like, he said, if you're looking for me to frown, that's not who I am. What we do in the playoffs is what really matters. And so, he's the one who said it's kind of nice that we don't have to worry about 17-0 now. I think we can debate about whether that's true or not, but it is kind of nice that they can sort of focus on the task at hand now. They know the stakes that are ahead of them. It's about getting the 1 seed. Let's put our energy towards that. But yeah, I mean, he did not look like himself after tweaking that ankle, especially on that interception that Jalen Hurts threw. It didn't seem like he had quite the gas either to go out and get the ball or to go up and get the ball. And he only had 1 catch in the game. So, if AJ Brown is 60% of himself over the next few weeks, that's pretty significant. And this is a player who has had an injury history.
Let me ask you this. Did you hear what Jalen had said in his press conference, where he kind of talked about the offensive line, but didn't reference exactly the offensive line, but it said that there were some problems with the offensive line?
Well, so this was interesting because Jalen Hurts and Jason Kelce had a little meeting between the two of them for about 10 minutes in the postgame locker room, in which they were just sort of going over some of the key plays in the game. And we asked Jason Kelce about this, and he said in his mind it's really important to do that stuff when it's fresh, because like even 24 hours later, you'll forget some of the things that you were feeling in the moment. And my guess is that had to do with that last full offensive possession, the second down play, the 2nd and 8 and 13 personnel, when it looked like maybe they called a screen and it was not blocked up correctly. And then the 3rd down play, when which Jalen Hurts tried to get a little bit antsy. Even the 1st down play, Jason Kelce said he missed a block there that could have sprung that play to be more of like an 8 or 10 yard run instead of a 2-yard run. And so I think there were some execution mistakes across the board on offense and defense. And I think Jalen Hurts is responsible for that. But I also think the offensive line was certainly not perfect yesterday.
I think that's what he said. The word he used was execution up front. And that referenced the offensive line, not without saying the offensive line, but he said there were some execution issues up front.
Yeah, and I had asked him specifically about that possession, and that's when he said that. So yeah, that's my understanding.
I knew it was something like that. See that, and that's to me, he's always one of those guys that keeps those sort of things to himself. But for him to say it out like that, kind of threw me for a loop. You know what I'm saying? It's not something he usually does.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, it's hard to get, like we talk about the all show. It's hard to gauge a lot because you hardly had the ball, right? But 1 touch for Miles Sanders in the first half. Why? What was going on there? What do you attribute that to? They started to give it to him more in that 1 drive, and his numbers actually were pretty decent. And their yards per carry wasn't terrible collectively. But what's going on there?
Yeah, I think I chalked that up to just they didn't have the ball very much in the first half. I mean, on the first possession after the turnover, when they go in and score a touchdown, Boston Scott was on the field. I'm not sure why that was, but it seemed like maybe they had him in on a red zone package to help set up some stuff. I don't know why it was that Miles Sanders didn't get the start yesterday. I think it was because of the turnover. They had something in, but I did think that Sanders ran well in the second half. And again, I thought the Eagles offensive line was moving the Commanders up front in the middle of the second half, but then just didn't get done at the end of the game.
Do you you brought it up? Do you think that, and a couple of the players actually volunteered this, but was the 8-0 thing wearing on them? You think collectively?
I'm sure that's probably like person by person.
Yeah.
And so if AJ Brown says that he's like a little bit glad it's in the rear view, I believe him. I'll take him at his word. I think Jason Kelce flipped it on the other way during the week. He's like, well, what do you want us to do? Try to lose? So obviously that's not what you want to do. I think it was probably for some guys on their mind and maybe gets you away from the task at hand and the siloed focus of week by week. I can't speak for the coaching staff, but I'm sure that there are some guys who are maybe glad to get back to work.
But what do you take away from this game? In the final analysis, what do you take away from?
I think I take away that they've got to figure something out on defense, and I know that part of this is by design, right? Like this is Jonathan Gannon's philosophy that he wants to force the opposition to maintain drives, convert in the red zone, prove that they can go a long time without making a mistake. But I think that there's a problem with the way that it matches up with the quality of the offense, because the theory behind that means that you are inviting long possessions, which means you are inviting fewer possessions in a game. And so if you think you're the better team, you want as many possessions as possible, because the larger sample size, you're gonna come out on top, right? Especially when you have an offense that can score a lot. And so, like, I'd like to see them be a little bit more aggressive. And Jonathan Gannon, the first 4 games of the season, was really breaking some tendencies from last year. He was blitzing more often on first and second down. He was sending big blitzes more. And it seems like since the Jordan Davis injury, I don't know if it's because, of the quality of opponent, but he's gotten back to some of the stuff that we saw last season that was a little bit too passive. And so I'd like to see them change something like that up front. I don't think, they don't have to sell out to stop the run on every down. They don't have to be a top 10 run defense. You just need them to sort of be mediocre and get into enough third and longs that they can get after the quarterback. Now, yesterday, there were some issues that were not just the run defense, like giving up a 26-yard completion to Terry McLaurin on 3rd and 9 or whatever it was. That's pretty bad. Like, that's the entire point of the defense, is to put yourself in those situations and not let that happen. And that happened a few times. So to me, all eyes are on the defense. And I know my beat partner, Zach Berman, likes to tell me that it's on the offense just as much too. And it is. In this game, the offense needed to execute better. But big picture, I'm more concerned about the defense, especially when you talk about getting into the playoffs against teams that are going to be even better.
How big a loss is Avonte Maddox? We saw them working out of the slot, having success last night. It didn't seem like a particularly good game for Slay, but how much of that is a trickle-down effect without Maddox? Yeah,
that's a good question, and I think I'll have to watch the tape to fully understand that. I thought that Josiah Scott played well live. He wasn't targeted too often, and Washington didn't really attack them in the slot that much. There was that big conversion to McLaurin on 3rd down when the Eagles were in dime and McLaurin was matched up against C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And then you could hear him on the broadcast saying, "Don't put a safety on me," which is fair. Probably don't put a safety on Terry McLaurin.
That was Jimmy Butler-esque,
That's exactly right.
Some of the things he was yelling.
But I think given who is on their schedule in the next 3 games with Avonte Maddox out, they should be fine next week. You probably move Slay inside against Michael Pittman Jr., who plays in the slot some. And then you talk about the Packers coming in, Alan Lazard is not going to keep me up at night. And then Tennessee, who barely has a passing game. So I think they'll be able to get through that one too. But the longer this list goes of, I think they can get through without this guy, I think they can get through without this guy, the more likely it is that the whole puzzle starts to break down a little bit.
I heard Brandon Graham's comments after the game, and he owned it. We've talked about Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham both being senior elder statesmen on this team.
I thought you were going to say senior citizen.
No.
In football years.
Exactly. Is it safe to say, from what we've seen them perform, that their better days might be behind them?
I think I'm more willing to say that about Fletcher than I am about BG, because Brandon Graham is a rotational, edge rusher, right? I think he's giving them about what they could expect for the way that they're using him. He's not the same player he was in 2018. That's true. I think his best days are behind him, but I don't think that he is, dragging them down in any capacity, especially given, what he's asked to do. I'm a little surprised at how few snaps Robert Quinn continues to play, given what they gave up for him. I thought that he would make a little bit more of an impact right away, but I understand that it's tough to get thrown in the middle of the season. With Fletcher Cox, he is not the player that they're paying him to be. He has some spike games, right? But on a consistent week-to-week basis, he played 80% of the snaps yesterday, which is a ton of snaps. And I was really surprised that they didn't have Marvin Wilson active for this game after promoting him from the practice squad last week. Not that Marvin Wilson is going to stop the Commanders' running game on his own, but an extra body on the defensive line to stop Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave from playing 80% of the snaps. I think could have helped a little bit. And like I think Fletcher Cox is good, but he's not Fletcher Cox at the moment.
Bo, special teams. I don't even know where to start. You know, it feels like we talk about this every single week, but they're getting very little in return game. There's now, you know, you had the penalty last night on the roughing the punter. The Sippos play late, which I don't know. It seemed like some kind of breakdown. First of all, was your sense that they couldn't have been faking a punt there, right? I mean, that was just a protection breakdown, and Sippos actually makes a nice play.
A hell of a play.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked. I have to watch it again, but it looked like Kayvon Wallace let a guy in free,
Okay.
And Sippos made an unbunbelievable heads-up play.
Props to him. It was a hell of a play. But generally, special teams has been an issue. Is there any? Is it Howie not providing personnel enough in that area? Is it Michael Clay? Is it they just don't have the? What is it?
Yeah, I've been maybe it's the contrarian in me, but I've been of the opinion that the special teams stuff is a little bit overblown because like what you said about Howie, like this is the way that the team is built. Like if you look at the way the resources are allocated, I think they made a conscious decision to borrow from special teams in order to address other areas. That said, I mean, this continues to happen every week. And I think it is starting to become a little bit of a concern. Like the fake punts conversions by opponents on 4th and 3, those don't bother me because like if you're going to do it, you pick up 3 yards. Like what can we really do to stop you, especially if you want us to, emphasize the return game. And they didn't go out and get a dynamic returner. They signed Britton Covey, who is like a 25-year-old undrafted rookie who doesn't really have a ton of juice. His job is to go out there and play it safe, and that's fine. If you look around the league, there are not a ton of explosive returners in the league. That has sort of gone like the way of the dodo, I guess. I don't think I've ever used that phrase before.
That was nice.
That's how tired I am. I'm pulling out a phrase like that.
An extinct animal. Yeah.
But the roughing the passer or the roughing the punter is a bad play. The Sippos play could have been an unbelievable disaster. If they get that punt blocked, that's game over. And we'd all be talking. That's all we'd be talking about. So yeah, they got to get it cleaned up, and I'm sure that is like something that they are very worried about right now.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern.
I don't like how this team at this point feels as though we can just come back at any time and get right, man. And is that something we got to look forward to going into the future? That they've said all the right things, they said all the right things, but they still haven't fixed the thing that they really need the most work on, and that's tackling and run defense. I mean, when do you think they're going to turn this around, or they just don't have enough to turn it around?
I think that in terms of like their play personality, the thing that gives me hope is the quarterback and the way that he carries himself and the way that the team seems to follow his lead. I mean, he's not going out there and playing middle linebacker and sticking his nose in against the run and stuffing things up. But I think that like Jalen Hurts' force of personality is enough to make this team, not get too ahead of themselves and start smelling themselves too much. In terms of the run defense, though, they gotta prove it at this point, right? Like we can't take it on faith. We gotta see them actually do it. And against Jonathan Taylor and Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon and Derrick Henry, who are all coming up, this is going to be a chance for them to prove themselves.
Bo, listen, man, always appreciate it. Check you out on Twitter at Bo_Wulf and, of course, at theathletic.com covering the Philadelphia Eagles. Bo, we appreciate a couple minutes.
Great job, bro.
Thanks
appreciate
it. On a short night's sleep. We do appreciate
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, look, interesting stuff there from Bo, man. And he's a guy who's there every day, right? And in lockstep with what's happening with this team. So it's going to be interesting to see the adjustments that they make. If they try to go outside, maybe bring in some personnel, somebody who's on the street, maybe to help with the run defense, what they do in special teams. It feels like, this is kind of what it is. Fix it, figure it out internally, and get better. And that's the way you do it. And we look, it's no secret what Indianapolis is going to do next week, or this week, I should say. They're going to try whatever day it is, Tuesday, this Sunday. And by the way, Sunday 1:00 game. Yes.
Ah!
Yes.
And then another night game after that. Ah.
Gunner, can I at least live in the moment for 2
No,
seconds?
no.
Do they have? I mean,
Pull the carpet right out from me, man.
Yeah, isn't there a certain number of games that you can only play night games?
Hey, by the way,
Who
get
knows?
ready for about 3 games, being flexed also.
Oh, don't say that, dude. Please don't say that.
At New York, December 11th.
Geez. Yes, I know. I've been trying not to think about that.
That the January 1st game against New Orleans could be flexed out. At least those 2. I hope I'm wrong. We already got a Christmas Eve.
But I thought there's only a certain number of night games you could play.
The league makes up its own rules.
I don't know. Well, those 1 o'clocks could turn into 4 o'clocks too. Keep that in mind. Hey, look. You rained on my parade. I was enjoying 1 week of a 4 o'clock, okay? And you took it away from me already. Oh, my God.
You can't rain on my parade, Rob.
Okay.
Every day, even a cloudy day, is sunny in D-Gun world.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, we'll come back. We'll do some NFL, guys. It's certainly not done with the Eagles by a long stretch, but there's a lot going on in the NFL, which we'll update you on and talk about other teams dealing with some serious injuries as well. Some interesting stuff from Mark Davis, the Raiders owner with the best haircut in football, and all kinds of stuff that we will do.
Got a chia pet on top of his head.
Oh, that's a rough look, man. That is a rough look. All right, so we'll come back. We will dig into that as well. So don't go anywhere. Barrett Brooks, Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis, Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I want to tell you about Razor Technology. Yes, with threat vectors evolving, it's never been more important to monitor all changes in your work environment and set up automated alerts for when something violates an existing policy. You get visibility into the pivotal changes happening to your systems and networks with IT support from Razor Technology. Change management. It's an end-to-end solution for tracking changes across all the systems and networks your business administers so that it has transparency into who is making those changes with enough time to respond and take corrective action if necessary. An unauthorized user, device, or application doesn't need very long to cause serious financial and reputational damage to an organization by altering, damaging, and stealing sensitive data. That's why Razor Technology uses real-time change detection to catch malicious actors in minutes, not days or weeks. Contact Razor Technology today to learn how their managed IT services can protect and enhance your business. Give them a call, 866-797-3282, 866-797-3282, or visit them online at razor-tech.com, razor-tech.com.
Don't